Now I would like to invite Leo Kahn from Crossy, Pedro Mace from DFB, Aaron again for for moderation, and Kolina from Infr Token. Please welcome them.
Okay, cool. Wait, do we need... Explica mais uma cadeira aí. Tem 4 pessoas aqui.
We need more seats.
Opa. Vocês preferem fazer português ou inglês?
No, man, I have no idea what you just said.
Oh.
Okay, English then, I guess.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're doing it in English then. Okay.
You speak English?
Yeah, but my English is kind of broke, so
Okay.
I will try.
We'll make it happen.
Okay. Beleza. Okay. So I'm actually filling in for João Curi on this panel. He couldn't make it today, so hence yeah. So I'm not quite as prepared as I would otherwise be, but
Don't worry, I'll be easy on you, man.
okay. Appreciate that. Well, so to give a quick, so we've got 30 minutes here, and we want to dive into the modular stack, right? This is one of the themes that's really prevalent across crypto right now. Is we have kind of this modular versus monolithic debate or rivalry, if you will. And so on one hand, you have people kind of lining up on their various sides. On the other hand, you have people saying that this modular versus monolithic thing is not even real. It's just like marketing. It's just like what PR people come up with to try to sell narratives and things like that. So we're going to kind of dive into like what all of this maybe looks like, what all this means. And maybe just everyone just take maybe like 30 seconds and just give a quick introduction to yourself and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Leo Kahn. I'm the CMO at Crossy. We are probably the world's going to be the biggest DeFi network, fingers crossed, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And in terms of my past experiences, I've been at PayPal, launching PayPal Crypto, a company called Paystand, doing about 12 to 13 billion on-chain transactions just for B2B, not on the consumer side, and was one of the first people at Near Protocol. So we'll talk about the monolithic stuff and what my experiences were back in 2017, 2018 at Near. It was just like kind of like one chain rules them all. We weren't talking about interoperability or any of that stuff. So I'll expand on that a little bit, but that's kind of like what my experience is. I'm like a dinosaur in the crypto space, I guess. I go all over the world, speak and stuff, and yeah, so hopefully you guys can gain from my perspective.
Okay, do you mind if I talk in Portuguese? Because it's really hard to say interoperability in English.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Yeah, but it's really hard. Então, a primeira coisa que, se vocês quiserem me achar no LinkedIn, o meu nome não é com A, é com E. Então, é Caroline Nunes. E eu sou a CPO da Infr Token. Então, eu vivo criando produtos, eu vivo desenhando produtos. E uma das grandes palavras da vez é justamente a questão da interoperabilidade. Eu estou no ramo de blockchain desde 2018 e interoperabilidade sempre foi um dos pontos críticos. Eu acho que, principalmente no universo financeiro, hoje é uma das palavras da vez e eu sinto que tem mais de um tipo de interoperabilidade. Não é tão simples assim você definir interoperabilidade em questão de... Oh, I'm sorry. Do you? Oh, I'm so sorry. I will talk in English. I was explaining that I feel that the word interoperability is way more complex than just the regular interoperability between chains. We have a bunch of other types. For example, the interoperability between the legacy world and the Web3 world, and I don't see many people looking for this gap and trying to do like APIs and yeah. So I will let you talk.
Pedro Ma is here. Started mining Bitcoin back in 2016. Well, actually counseling for a bunch of miners in North New York, and then I came back to Brazil being the head of Huobi. That didn't go so well because Huobi never managed to actually get a grip in the country. Then I left Huobi to go to Transfero, which is the minter and the controller of the BRZ. Call it the largest non-dollar stablecoin in the world, you could say, although we do use it in the tune of billions of dollars of volume to do Forex more than anything else. But I became then responsible for everything that the company did in Web3, really. So all the DeFi operations, all the incentivized pools, all the minting of the new blockchains, the bridging of the token itself. And as Transfero started becoming a payments institution, a well-regulated one, I forked, let's say, out of Transfero, creating my own entity. Which they are a partner of, called DFB. Don't tell the regulator. It could be Decentralized Finance Bank, bridge or broker. Really you choose. And what she's saying is more or less what we do nowadays, which is, let's say, data or transaction in, because everything is just transaction or everything is data in blockchain. And an abstraction of data out. So monitoring of positions, mempool, sentinels, flashbots, batching of transactions, staking of Ethereum, Polygon, well, Avalanche probably soon, but Solana before that, just because of the demand that I have from my clients. And still doing all the DeFi operations between the BRZ and a bunch of RWAs nowadays. So I do agree with her. Interoperability and modularity are very, very large breadth of definitions that could really mean anything. I do see the sense in modularity in the sense of how the blockchain works and how it's validated between the different participants of the network, really. But I do believe that it would be interesting to talk about all of these different subjects in one go, although it's quite a few.
Yeah, well, maybe we can just try to just establish a basic definition of like how we want to talk about like when I think about modularity, I use kind of the modular versus monolithic distinction as a way to think about this. Where with the modular stack, you're basically it's almost like it's like the Lego building blocks, right? Okay, we have the Ethereum base layer, we have various L2s, we have different like data availability layers like Celestia that kind of work in the middle of all that. And then the interoperability is like one level on top because you have to get all this stuff to like actually talk to each other, right? Yep. And the way we actually, I interviewed Rafael Castaneda about this recently, and he had a really good way of explaining it where he was having knee surgery today, so he couldn't come. But the way he explained it was, look, like if you have a laptop computer and you run out of memory, you run out of processing power, so you upgrade all the pieces in the computer, and then you get to the point where like you can't upgrade it anymore, but you still need more computing power. So what you do is like, okay, we just add another computer, right? And then that one runs out of memory, and then you add another computer. And that's kind of like what like the L2 model is almost, where you just kind of keep adding blockchains, and then you get the capacity, but then you have to get these things to actually like talk to each other. Like how do you get one computer to talk to the other computer? So that's where kind of the interoperability like angle comes in. Like that's how I've kind of been thinking about it. But maybe, Leo, if you want to just kind of give like a quick definition of like how would you kind of explain that distinction for the layperson here?
So I think that was a great example of like you keep on adding computers and it's just modular and you keep on adding more blockchains. But it's just not about just adding more compute power, graphics, what may have you. It's also about oracles. Like where are you getting that information from, and is that information even accurate? I think that's also important. That's why you see the advent of oracles, and oracles are everywhere. So which blockchain is talking to which one, and where are you getting this information from? So I think that's very important to us, especially for us, because we parse information from everywhere, and oracles are like super, super important to us. But yeah, I mean, listen, so Crossy is a layer 1 DeFi project that's built on Cosmos, and we also utilize EVM, right? And that's what we make it much more easier for a modular approach. Today we might not be zero knowledge, but that's kind of like what the intention is. That you started with low code, no code, and now we're in the zero knowledge space. So that's why I love tech, and this is what basically tech is all about. Like we're always evolving. So going back to the same example, when we were building Near back in 2017, 2018, just 5 guys in a room with no windows, like literally, I kid you not. And the whole thing was, we need to build a sharded network. That's it. We only had one mission in mind, one single focus mission, which was build a sharded network, beat Ethereum to ETH 2.0. And they said, oh, you can't really do it, right? And then we went and we did it. Raised a bunch of money from Andreessen and so forth. But that era was different. This was not even a conversation that at one point there will be Oracle, there will be interoperability. These words did not exist. Like this tech did not exist. I'm talking about 2018. And here we are where we're saying, oh, the era of one chain is over, right? And then you got to have EVMs, you got to have like much more interoperability, and then now the block space is running out, you're adding more blockchains and all that good stuff. So I think that this is basically a testament of this entire community, people in this room, because user base is growing, bandwidth is growing, and you talk about scalability, but when you're trying to do scale and you're trying to hit scalability, these are the issues and these are the problems that create with it. These are good problems to have, and that's where modular stacks and these things they come into play, and that's why we're here and we're having these conversations. So I think those are my 2 cents, like what the evolution of the space is and how we get here. But then again, I mean, does everyone have the answer today? That I have a one-stop shop solution that basically fixes all your problem? No, there's no winner-take-all situation right now. That's what's great about our space is we're not in the cloud wars where you're like, oh, are you on AWS or GCP or Azure and what may have you? But even in that in the Web2 space, I was in the Web2 space for about a decade. They're also talking about interoperability. They're also talking about meshing the clouds, right? They don't believe in like one vendor, because they don't want to give too much control. They don't understand it. That's the problem. They don't understand that why I don't want to give too much control to AWS versus Google Cloud or any other vendor, but they love working with centralized institutions. The answer is, duh, it's decentralization. That's why you're doing this, because you don't want to have too much control over one vendor, and that's been the case. But I think our space is evolving. It might take a decade. This is a long time, by the way. You're in it for the long haul. You're not in it for a short haul. When I started in the space in the Web 2, sorry, I'm taking too long to answer this, but when I started in the Web 2 space, there was only one vendor. It was called Salesforce. That's it. And nobody wanted to take a chance on Salesforce. And they're like, what is this? Like, I love perpetual licenses. I want to own and operate my own hardware. And then look what Salesforce is and where the Web 2, and especially the cloud era is. So our space might take another decade, 10 years, but then by far it will be cheaper, faster, obviously decentralized and much more scalable. So
it's an interesting point that you make that these aren't necessarily like new problems, right? These are like the Web 2 space has dealt with some of these same issues, and it's really just the same problem just manifesting itself in a different, kind of technological context essentially. So it's useful, like we're not necessarily like, this isn't like, totally plowing new ground that's never been done before. Like there are, these solutions that have existed, people have figured out solutions to these problems. I guess, Caroline or Pedro, if either you want to react to that, I'll let you do that and I have a couple other questions to go ahead.
Yeah, so in Infr Token, we are dealing with another kind of interoperability that is this gap between the Web 2 and Web 3. And for example, for the regulator, you need to make it clear that the old model, you can translate it into Web 3 as well. So for example, we are getting the institution of Basin Jude. That's something that the judiciary system uses to block values. And we are translating it into Web 3. So, okay, you can call also Basin Jude. You can use it to freeze tokens as well. So we are trying to translate the things between Web 3 and Web 2, because there that I see that will have a real change for the regulator, because the regulator, we can force the regulator to really understand all this decentralized system. We know that the interoperability between chains is a thing in the decentralized ecosystem, but first of all, we need to make it clear that the old institutions will not disappear because of the blockchain. The regulator needs someone to kind of choke the neck. So it's not easy to just, okay, the intermediaries, they don't exist anymore because of the blockchain. It's not like this.
I wouldn't say that intermediaries don't exist anymore. I'd say that anyone can be an intermediary now, and they all compete in the free market world. So, although I do agree with you, you're basically talking about governance in a contract, for example, because if you look at any regulatable or regulated or serious stablecoin nowadays, they are blacklistable, they are blockable, they are force transferable. You have these governance features so that you can actually manage as if you were a regulator. Back to your no winner takes all argument. I love that. I fully agree, especially considering that now the difference between before is that you asked, please, can I please, regulator, make a bank? You don't have to. Deploy the code, make the nodes, make it run. But the interesting thing about interoperability in the no winner takes all world is the fact that it becomes a, let's say, a path of least resistance. Because in the end of the day, the ideal blockchain, let's say, operations won't necessitate you to actually know you're using a blockchain, right? So let's just say that you have, in 5 years, probably thousands of different paths to get from point A to point B, whatever point A to point B is. Is it an asset to another asset? Is it a voting power to a decision? Whatever point A and point B is, you'll just find a path of least resistance, and some system between you and multiple blockchains at the same time will facilitate this and make it extremely, let's say, efficient for, well, do regular people know how email works? No, they don't. They press send and it sends, right? So when it comes to interoperability in a sea of different blockchains, I believe that is the final goal everyone has to strive for. It's a good thing you guys do facilitate having an EVM because, well, the infrastructure is already built. So it's very hard to, and I know this, we build infrastructure to abstract data out of the blockchain, to adapt everything so that one language can speak to each other. Because in the end of the day, all the nodes are listening to is machine code, right? You're basically doing a three-part translation from machine code to translation to another code to machine code again. Isn't it way easier if it's just machine code to code back to machine code? Plus a lower threshold for errors and a lot more processing efficiency. So considering Ethereum invented the economic incentive to program, I don't believe there was much before Ethereum, right? Now you can make a dApp and become rich. Program, good, great incentive. People learned EVM, people learned Solidity, people learned, well, now Viper, you can say other abstractions on top of Solidity or whatever. But it has become such big a monster that ignoring it and not being able to, via oracles, hopefully, although the oracle problem is impossible to solve perfectly, it becomes way easier and way less friction to get from point A to point B, which is the final objective.
So I just have do you want to, if you want to react to that, I'm going to change the topic slightly, but if you wanted to react to that.
No, I agree. I think he's spot on. I mean, both these guys are spot on. So
coming from the builder's perspective, something I've been thinking about, I guess as somebody who's not a builder, but just trying to think of how I'd approach this if I were a builder, does like the modular stack and like kind of all these like layers that have been kind of piled on, does this overcomplicate things for the builder, right? Does this make it, because you got to think of like, okay, I want to build a dApp. Like, I want to get rich and build a dApp somehow, like Pedro's saying. Like, okay, let's go program something. Okay, like, what chain do I build on? Okay, I want to build on Ethereum. Okay, there's like 50 L2s I can build on, and like, they're all,
good luck with gas.
Like, I don't really understand the difference between any of these things nominally. Like, they all kind of look the same. And then, okay, now I need like a data availability layer, and I need an oracle. I need like all these different, like, it almost seems easier just to plug into something like a Solana or Near or something that's a little more, okay, just plug and play and ready to go. Anyway, I would just love your like thoughts on that.
I think that's where Solana, Near, these guys, they they're good guys in terms of they make it simple for you to do it. They're like, hey, here's all the dev tools that you need. You just come here and build your dApp, and you're on your way, right? And we'll take care of the rest. Like we'll take care of the gas fees. We'll take care of the any interoperability problems that you might have in the future. We'll take care of it, right? We've got the EVM, we've got all of this stuff and whatnot. And then they have an ecosystem. Solana might have, they have a closed ecosystem, so they're more kind of like an Apple approach, like what Apple takes, right? So it's all proprietary and all that stuff, even though they might say that it's all open and stuff like that. But good thing that they have is they do have the numbers, they have the community. I mean, they have a lot of developers. They're give or take about 15,000 developers in our industry. I mean, there's millions of developers out there, but the ones who are actually building, like Solidity developers and so forth, they're very hard to find. Like, where do you go and find these guys? They're about only 15,000. And then now there's a rat race. There's a competition. I want the same people, right, out of those 15,000. So my job becomes much more harder to convince you guys, if you're developers here, please come build on my chain and do this, and and then it makes it so. So I think the going back to there's no winner take all mentality, but I think the winner would be whoever makes it much more easier for the dev tools. Like simple, right? You come here. That's why we get into the ZK space, the zero knowledge space, right? You don't need to do anything. You just come here, simply plug it in, create a simple dApp, and you're on your way, and then just leave the rest to us. So I think we are the incumbents when it comes to having that responsibility, where we're making it much more faster, scalable. And I have to be up at night and figure this problem out, right? My CTO and all my technical team has to figure this out. How do we make it much more simple and scalable for the developer? So they don't have to worry about which L2 I need to pick, which tech stack I need to. There used to be I think there was techstack.io or something. I don't know if I'm missing the name. Like this is the Web 2 era. Like literally you would go onto these different websites and you would pick like tech stacks and figure out, okay, this matches with this one. This is a mesh with this one, and that's what you're doing. You're just playing this puzzle game all day long. I used to do that, kind of like back in the day. And then you're like, oh, I am the expert when to figure out like what these tech stacks are. That's why you want to give me a job, because I know what the tech stacks look like the back of my hand. This is stupid. Like, seriously. Like, exactly. Why are you doing this? It should just be simple. Like, I have limited time. I want to put simple lines of code and basically make that work. Same goes in our space. So I think that's what it comes down to when you're tackling that problem. So we are the ones who should take responsibility and make it much more simpler for the dev. I think a great example that comes to mind is, again, it's a payment company called Stripe. They make it very easy for the developers. Twilio is another one that comes to mind. These are Web 2 companies that are looking into coming into the Web 3 space. Especially Stripe now, they're launching, like, they were the early ones to launch a crypto, payment platform, and they backed out because of the SEC investigation and what may have you, and now they're back in it. So they do a great job for the developers. Just give them basically the holy grail of like the developer tool sets, and they're like, just build, and it will just auto magically work. So I think the word is auto magic, so we're not really there in blockchain. So I think we need to do a good job of doing it. Again, it comes down to resources, money, and so forth. These companies, they have billions of dollars. Solana, sure, they do have those billions, but not every layer 1 or layer 2 has like billions of dollars. Like, I'm sitting here representing Crossy. We don't have billions. I wish we do. So we can go and build those tools and make it easier for you guys to kind of like do it. So I think those are my 2 cents on that.
Other thoughts on making this stuff accessible for builders?
Yeah, so my biggest concern when I build a product is to don't let it be too expensive, because this is a huge problem when you try to sell it, for example, for financial institutions. They will not really care about all the infrastructure that you're building on. They will care about if it's 10 cents more expensive than the infrastructure they are using.
It will be. If it's a blockchain, it will always be.
That's the problem. They don't see it like, because the infrastructure will just be cheaper if you fire, for example, the people there that are building the Excel sheets and make it manually, but they don't see it like it's not clear for them.
So to be pricier, so if you're price conscious, and you're actually looking for the cheapest product out there, do not build on Web3. Web3 will always be more expensive because there will be gas fees, it will be expensive. And when we were out there and building like Near Protocol, we knew it from day one that we will be expensive. But that is the price that you pay for decentralization. So it's up to you. You can decide. You can go to AWS, you can go to any other cloud vendor and say, hey, I can build much more, maybe cheaper and faster. And there's why I say faster, because there's so many developers. So what I say, more than 1 million developers available, they already know that stack and they know how to build on it. So it's easier for them to do it. So you will get to market faster by building on Web 2 and getting there. But if you don't want to give your data to somebody else and have that centralized institution control everything that you do, like overnight they can switch you off because you just violated one terms of condition in the 1 million pages that they have, and you're done. You're toasted. That's it. It's sayonara, game over for you, right?
If you don't want to give your data to someone else, give it to everyone.
Exactly. And and then they have a backdoor channel, and the government is watching, and you know what they're doing, so they can shut you off. Look what's happening to TikTok, right? That's an perfect example. Like they can just shut you off. Now imagine if TikTok was built on a decentralized network. What are you going to do? How are you going to go shut it off? You can't do it. So I think there will always be a price to pay for decentralization. So be prepared. If you are developers here and you're thinking about how can I make this a much more cost-effective thing, go build on Web 2. You're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room.
You have to build. If you're building on Web 3, you will pay a much more higher price. Maybe 10 years from now, we will get much more cheaper, and 10, 15 years, there will be so much scale and so forth, and we'll be a little cheaper. I don't know what the future holds, but as of today, right now, we are more expensive because you have to pay the cost for.
Well, it's hard to argue that we would be ever more efficient than a centralized server simply because multiple people have to verify everything that happens. But that simple fact just makes it processingly more expensive. I believe blockchains really are only for two main things, which is, well, let's be honest, power and value. So things that you don't trust other people with. That's what blockchains are for. So to be perfectly frank with you, and I don't want to make any regulators mad at me at any point in my life, please.
There are no regulators here, trust me. Nobody's watching you.
Is the fact that, well, now I don't have to have an intermediary to trust anyone anywhere. That's a new thing for humanity. So if you extrapolate whatever this blockchain thing is, which is a generalized term because modular blockchains don't even look like a blockchain anymore, it's not a chain of blocks. Well, it is if it's multiple at the same time. You really start to understand that this is going to be a method by which we're going to reprogram, let's say, the human society, because previously to trust someone that wanted to, well, let's just for argument's sake, kill me or steal from me, I would have to put a regulated intermediary that was trusted by someone that gave it a certificate. Now I don't. Now I don't. Now I verify. Now I don't trust. I verify. So that really changes the whole dynamic of human society in the next 50 years, if you ask me. It's bigger than we think. It's bigger than money.
So you're saying trust but verify.
Well, you do have to trust your node or whatever. It is. There's some complications to that idealism, but technically speaking, is way more trusted. So. Yeah.
So can we? I like this conversation, but we only have 4 minutes left, so I have one more question I want to throw to the panel here. And so we recently had the DevCoon upgrade back in March, so 2 months ago. And the point of this upgrade was going back to the question of price, right? The point of the DevCoon upgrade was to make Ethereum L2s much cheaper to use, right? Lowering the gas fees on these significantly. And my question is, has this maybe worked? How is this going? Has this worked as planned? Has this made it more easier for builders to access? And then maybe, how does this maybe play into this interoperability conversation that we were having earlier? Maybe whoever wants to take that one, and then.
Well, I honestly think that the expensive and heavy, actually decentralized blockchains in the end of the day are going to become, although there is a beacon chain around, beacon chains for other things to plug into and to automate out of, and then we settle on that chain, but that's only the main settlement whenever we feel like someone's lying to us or whenever we feel like there should be a time frame in which we all agree on this state of the truth, really. But well, I guess that's my 2 cents. Yes, so Ethereum is going to become a beacon chain for multiple layer 2s because it's way too expensive for people to operate. In terms of the developing its own layer 2, I love this phrase from Andreas Antonopoulos, which basically says if you have a tube, right, a wire, internet connection that's 10 kilobytes, you will find an engineer to tap those 10 kilobytes and use 100% of those 10 kilobytes. If you give him a 1 gigabyte connection, he'll find a way to tap a 1 gigabyte connection. So the price of operations of a blockchain is more to do with the economic incentive for you to operate at such a high throughput within that blockchain more than anything else. It's not Ethereum's throughput's fault that it's expensive, is the fact that the economic incentive for people to tap fully that throughput is mostly there. If you look at layer 2s and you start having the amount of money or multiples the amount of money that you have in Ethereum, for example, you'll start getting very, very high gas fees as well. It's a very interesting game between once we were deploying a pool in Avalanche, and it really surprised me because I deployed the pool at the wrong price on purpose. On the same block I deployed the pool, there were people arbitraging my pool back to full price, which was shocking to me, but that just proves if there is economic incentive to do an operation, that operation will be done.
Either of you want to chime in on the L2 question?
I would just leave a message to you guys if you have developers that are building on Web3, keep an eye on those developers and try to direct the product, because they will probably build a masterpiece in the Web3 scenario, but you need to know where are you playing the game. If you are playing the game in the traditional sector, you need to keep an eye on them. But if you are building on the decentralized, full decentralized sector, it's okay. They can build a masterpiece.
On the developer thing, except for the meme, developers, which keeps being true. Oh God, I believe I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it. I had to make the joke.
All right, well,
I had to make the joke.
Leo, why don't I give you a final thought, and then if Pedro remembers his joke, then we could go back to it.
I think these guys are right, and yes, it is a rat race for developers. But I'm indifferent to the cost of the L2s and stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, I don't think so. That's kind of like affecting my business. Like I'm really laser focused on like what we're trying to do. So our mission is basically like we have a crypto card, so where you can connect your MetaMask wallet basically to our app, and then just use the Visa card to pay for any goods like coffee and what may have you. So I'm more concerned about transaction volume and how you stretch the network and just use it more and more versus like worrying about the layer 2 costs and so forth. That's just kind of like an afterthought. So I think I'm the wrong profile to be asking that question. It's a great question for our CTO and stuff. So those guys, they worry about those costs.
I remember what I was going to say. I was just going to mention I love every single developer in the room and out here in the crypto world. You guys are way too idealistic. On the way to idealistic, seriously, it's very easy to get lost in your own little world and think that that world is perfect, but that's not the real thing. And I really wanted to ask you now about that card. Do you use permits on ERCs, for example, to do it? So what function exactly do you call, and how does it operate exactly in terms of when do I sign your permission to move my money through the MetaMask?
You don't need, it's permissionless, right? So basically what you do is simply just connect your wallet, right, to the app, and that's it.
I have to sign I have to give you permission to move my money, or I have to transfer the money at some point.
Well, you use our token, so you use use XFi.
You got the control of the token.
So use XFi to basically pay for the goods. So
force move.
yes, force move. So, I mean, for today, right? But in the future, so we are already in testnet right now, and we're basically using the card. It's actually working. Like we have the terminal here and whatnot. If you want a demo, come see me, and our teammates here as well. It's fabulous. We've been paying for Uber. We've basically been using this card and doing everything that you would do with a regular card. So rewards comes next and all those things and what may have you, right? So
it's a great idea. I'm gonna copy you.
That's why we're here. Why do you think like ideas matter, right? So that's why I keep saying it. It's never been done before, where you can simply connect your MetaMask or Trust Wallet or any other wallet, right, and just use fiat or flawlessly, seamlessly, right? And there's no banks, by the way. You don't have to connect a bank. So we cut out the middleman. So it's straight up your MetaMask wallet to CrossFi, pay through the Visa network, which is global.
I'm going to check if the BRZ has a force move function, and I'm going to do that. It's pretty nifty. I like what you did.
This is the cool shit.
All right. Well, be sure to
Real
check
world
out this card. Like you've piqued our interest in this, so
Crossfire,
we'll be sure to learn more about this afterward. But hey, Pedro, Caroline, and Leo, really appreciate your time today. Thanks everyone for being here, and I'll turn it back to Antonio or whomever for the next panel.
Hey, Jack Dorsey. Where's Jack Dorsey?
Thank you guys. Obrigado.
Thank you.
you.